Okay, I'm calling us to order for 7:02. We're just going to follow along the agenda. I don't have any notes of anyone wanting to make public comment tonight, so we will, first of all, go to Mr. Stoddard. And we had indicated to Scott we wanted to have a chance to talk to him about the enforcement response plan as well as an update on Macy Lane. So everybody got the materials, I'm assuming? And I just suggested to Scott, he might just want to start the conversation by doing an overview, and we'll let it flow from there.
Yeah, you guys have specific questions on the response plan I can get into. Essentially, the plan evolves out of the national pre-treatment standards, which our local law has been really written to deal with the pre-treatment standards. But what that requires is that the publicly known treatment works with the treatment plant develop and implement an enforcement response plan to investigate and respond to instances of industrial user non-compliance. We don't really own a pre-treatment facility, so since really the city is the treatment facility that would be impacted, they've developed an enforcement response plan already. So ours needs to coincide and really mimic the city's enforcement response plan. So that's what was done. And I think really this should have probably already been been completed and already in the department. But I think historically never enforcement action had to be pursued. So it probably never came up. We did have a late submittal of an industrial user's quarterly monitoring report. So that's kind of when we started asking some questions and talking with Dave Powell at the city, and we were discussing potential enforcement or notice of violation issue. And it came forward that we didn't have the plan in place. So really what the plan required at that time was really that the notice of violation for a minor deviation in a reporting issue that was less than a month overdue is really a phone call to the individual and document that.
Is this relative to industrial users only?
Correct. Yep. So it's only sewer and it's only industrial users. Our sewer use law outlines the industrial use program. It does outline fines, penalties there, which then this now dovetails into that and will give us a little bit of an outline whether a report's late or that you go in and do an inspection and the inspection doesn't do well, or we become aware of an illegal discharge. This will kind of give us outline of how to take any action against the discharger.
One of the things we talked about, Scott, was the concern with enforcement. Who enforces, and penalties will be levied, fines. How are they determined, and again, who enforces that? Where does the fine?
I mean, we do have the authority as the control authority under the law, but any major violation would also be pursued in conjunction with the city because their treatment plant would have been impacted, with their species permit potentially impacted, and would be the DEC also involved.
Department of Health?
Most likely not, because it's mostly
DEC.
wastewater and it would be DEC, and then in New York State, the pre-treatment program also falls under EPA, so EPA will be involved. It was also enforcement action that was nothing other than minor.
Dog control officer will run into challenging situations. We always remind him to go with law enforcement.
Yeah.
He'll issue his summons, but the individual ends up in front of courts, and the judge will render a decision, a penalty, whatever needs to happen. In the case of the town, is there any similarity in how monitoring and enforcement might take place? For example, we might go with the city because obviously they're directly impacted, or with law enforcement if there's a significant violation, or with DEC.
Yeah, I mean, I think, a lot of times if there's something known, there's provisions if we had to show up and do an inspection and they didn't let us in, then we get warrants and law enforcement tag along and will escort us into the facility, which we've never had anything of that nature. Or it typically is done you know, it either comes forth as, you know, someone complains and there has to be an investigation of an illegal discharge or something of that nature. Reporting requirements are met, or annual, really the paperwork's out of sort. So a lot of times it would come to them as some type of written notification of violation or consent order, which is usually done through, you know, written correspondence, versus me having to show up and, you know, hand deliver a ticket to the, you know, plant manager of the facility. So a lot of times it's done through paper correspondence and things of that nature.
What do we have to do? What does town have to do at this stage, or do they have to do anything, or?
With the existing,
Yeah,
with the Schombeck issue, or with this plan?
this plan.
Really, it just goes on, it has to be approved and go on file, and.
So there's nothing,
No, there's no action needs to be taken. You know, if I do, say, for example, you know, Schombeck or Falcon Energy are our two industrial users in the town, that if they submit a report that has an exceedance on it and I need to pursue some type of enforcement action, I would go to this plan and it would kind of outline that.
do they give you a report periodically?
Yeah, yeah.
Like how often is periodic?
Well, we get pH and flow on a weekly basis.
Oh, you do?
You know, I mean, we heavily regulate this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Good, that's good.
Another job in the department.
Now, if they go over just out of curiosity, do they indicate to you, oh, by the way, we went over?
They are required to give us notification, written notification, verbal, it depends on how much they exceed by, but they are normally have to give us a heads up usually.
Have they ever gone over?
No, we've had a couple issues on chasing some monitoring parameters, because they have some that are effluent discharge limitations that have an actual value in it, and then others are monitor only. We've had some issues where we had some monitor only requirements that kind of came up more frequently than probably we prefer, and kind of had to investigate and chase some chemicals that were showing up and causing a little bit of
Are the reports or tasks of monitoring automatically copied to the city or DEC?
Yep, they go to the city, and then if there's any issues, then they would go on to.
Would the city or DEC take action independent of?
Nope, they would work with us to pursue action. And that's actually, you know, a lot of times that, you know, we'll review it and make sure it's good, and then it goes, you know, then they follow the city, kind of goes through again. If you have any questions, usually kind of go back and forth. Or if it's, you know, no, I think we need to take some enforcement, or because really, a lot of times, you know, city's the driver, you know, sometimes they can handle a little bit of something that comes at them, and other times they can't, and, you know, so on those monitor-only requirements, where typically monitor-only requirements are measured for protection of the plant, as well as, you know, when you go to modify their permit next time, is there something that should be now included that wasn't included, if they've done a process change or something changes that needs to be addressed, so that's a lot of monitor-only requirements.
I think one of the things that happens, Scott, and I guess I'm just saying this as a, maybe an explanation for us. We don't always know all the details
Yeah.
of the department,
Yeah,
and it's important. You know, I know we get reports, but we don't report on all the details of the day either.
yeah, no, I mean, our industrial user program is fairly large, and it is also, we need to verify, you know, that customers don't trip into the program because they change the process, or they've had something, or they show up and, you know, they hop in, you know, they've got a new tenant that comes in, and now all of a sudden they're, you know, manufacturing, and they're in the metal finishing business. You need a permit to do that, you know? But, you know, a lot of times for us to chase some of these things, the information doesn't always come forth.
The dentist and the issues with the mercury, does that fall under the industrial because of the metal, or?
Yeah, it's kind of in the industrial, but it's really being driven by pre-treatment standards, which, you know, the pre-treatment standards really evolved because the government had put a lot of money into, in the 70s, put wastewater treatment plants all over the U.S. and said, okay, you're going to get at least primary and secondary treatment. Oh, and all this industry's going on. We didn't build these treatment plants for industry, so industry, you're responsible to be able to meet a discharge limit so that treatment plant can handle what you're saying. So, and that's what it requires, that it kind of pushes the treatment up into the facility. And then for dentists, you know, really that method is their amalgamation of the mercury into the process so it doesn't get in the wastewater. So, and that's been really evolving as the mercury requirements have become more stringent.
We often, I'm trying to ask leading questions, go ahead.
Well, I guess I don't have leading questions, but on the description of terms, Scott, it says control authority is the town supervisor and the town board, the pre-treatment administrator, and a pre-treatment coordinator. And I noticed that throughout this, it's the same person.
Yeah, that's because it's different at the city. And the city has, my role is filled by two individuals. There's the chief operator, and there is the city engineer. I fill both of those roles here, so.
So we're not talking about the pre-treatment coordinator for the city, that's part of this.
Yep.
You're doing both.
Yep.
Okay, because I was a little bit confused when
Yep.
I read through this and say.
Yeah. I mean, really, they could have been replaced with one, but they use both of those terms in the pre-treatment standards, so they kind of have to be able to refer out to the verbiage that the CFR, the Code of Federal Registration, uses for the verbiage of enforcement and the roles within the pre-treatment requirements, which is the control authority, coordinator. So.
These new dentists that's coming in, has to have a monitoring system?
Yeah, they have to have a amalgamation system that's on file. And probably within the next couple of years, we will have to routinely annually inspect them. And that they are handling because also any unused amalgam or mercury containing substances have to be handled as hazardous waste. So they have to meet hazardous waste requirements for labeling and dates and shipping off-site and manifest and all that good stuff. So we go and dive into the records and make sure.
Now
we do that.
the NOV, is that ever involved in a fine at any time?
It can, yes.
It can.
Notice of violation.
So notice of violation could be a fine. On the other ones I see where it says, you know, it's administrative order, but it is a fine.
Yes.
That's something that's automatic, whereas this one, it's up to the
It's a little bit-
situation.
Yeah, it's a little bit more discretionary.
Because I've read some of the situations, and it seemed like some of them would have qualified for a fine compared to the others.
Yeah. No, that's an option within the notice of violation.
I only had a couple suggestions. And I don't know what the pride of authorship is with this, okay? So
Well, it's a city's written, so.
I don't want everybody to
Very common.
But I think underneath that first line where it says Town of Plattsburgh, New York Enforcement Response Plan, it might be good if we said for industrial users of municipal sewer system or systems. Just so that it, you know, clarifies who it is for. The other thing that I think is important, on that first page under B1, they use NOV, and you know, they're using an abbreviation they have not yet defined. And the same thing is true where they're using POTW.
Yep.
And I think if they use the full term in those two places, and then when you get to page 2 and you've got the description of terms, now you're fine. People can run with that. But
You think we should move it to the front page?
no, because I didn't see how, I looked at that and I couldn't see.
Yeah, it's tricky to
how
pull
it
up front.
would move to the front makes sense. You know, so I think you just.
How about if you just put on the first one that you have, see description of terms, page 2?
Yeah, we can write it out.
Granted, I read these in page order, but.
So, and if you guys have any, after you review it, if you have any comments, then just submit it to me and we'll change them, and then we'll probably submit this for the resolution for approval from the board, so. And then,
Is there a time frame you want that?
no, I mean, like I said, we had the one instance of enforcement that we had to pursue. We kind of used the guidance working with the city, and it wasn't, it was pretty minor, so we were able to kind of document it with a phone call, really, was the only requirement there, so. There isn't any pending issue that I needed in place to be able to take enforcement action or anything like that. That's not the case, so.
But if we're pretty comfortable where we
Yeah.
are, obviously it has to mirror and match the
Yeah, as soon as I
city's.
get approved one, I need to send it off to Dave, and, he puts it in his files, and then, he can check that, we kind of
So I
got
can-
it decided to shop in order, so.
We still have a few days. I mean, I can have a resolution drafted for Monday. Be a nice item to get done before the end of the year, then you've got it, it's done. We can always amend it if
Mhm.
circumstances allow, but
Yeah, I mean, there isn't a whole lot that it differs from.
You've got a couple suggestions, you can give me a new one with that,
Yep, I'll make
those changes, and we'll draft the resolution. I just don't see a reason to let it bang around like the next topic for God knows how many months.
So, Macy Lane agreement, really asked for an update, and there really is no update. We had submitted on March 13th, transmitted the draft agreement, unsigned by the town of Plattsburgh, to Scholar Falls, went to Harold and his board, asking for really their comments if they had anything, and if not, then to execute it and send it back. So we have not heard anything from that. I've kind of touched base with them on.
I forgot, when did you say send it?
March 13th of 2013.
It's 2013,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
But also, the project received approval from the Department of Health on September 10th, which basically just is an extension of the main, really. I know that some of the equipment has, the vault and things have been ordered, and from what I understand. There was a question of whether they were getting ready to do some dig saves, but we haven't seen or heard anything otherwise.
I wouldn't expect too much to happen now until spring.
Yeah,
would you?
well, they're getting kind of in a bad time of year.
Ramping up, that's all at best.
Yeah, and I know Gareth's been with you doing other projects
Mhm.
and things. And then one of the concerns that the town had, or the department had, is that shortly after this kind of started evolved, you may note that there's some duplexes going up on the end of Macy Lane, and they will not be in the water district, and they are on wells. There's a question of whether, they will have water quality that is, not the same problem that the neighbors have, and how long it will be before, they're asking to expand that district or change it, but that land is currently being developed. But those wells were approved by DOH. And they're, I think, one per unit, or else they'd have to run that as a water system also. So, but if you drive by and you see all this growth and Macy Lane, it's outside the district, and that's actually why,
Who's selling the property?
I'm not sure if that, I don't think it was all Garrett, but I'm not sure. We did put in the agreement a layout of the district, for that concern that there's a lot of nice developable land all the way around it that, I think some kind of thought that once water showed up, then everyone just hop on board, But that can only be done with an changing of the district, which would have to be done by Garrow's, and then, or not Garrow's, but the town of Scholar Falls, and then we would have to agree to make that additional supply to that district also.
All predicated on an agreement that they've had since March, you still haven't responded to this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. But we're still dealing with some of the LGE activities that we're going on year 3 on getting meters in, and probably we're gonna conclude the project. Any meters that Scholar Falls wants to put in, they can go out and read out the bid and chase them. We're not gonna manage that project anymore. So that's what we're with that too.
Another related item that's come up is outside user agreements. Maybe just shed a little light on that.
Yeah, I know there's
Seems
some
to be
questions
related.
as to who pays what and are they aligned, and, really, part of it is that our outside agreements have evolved over time, not any one of them is exactly like the other. So as they evolve, or as the town implements new agreements, there's a want to go retroactively back and make the other ones fall in line. Sometimes that can be done easily, sometimes it has to be, let's review the agreement. Currently, all outside users, that being Beekman Town and Scholar Falls also has Woods Mills agreement, that's a historical agreement with us. They're all currently paying the current water usage rate of $1.41 per thousand. So they're all paying the same rate right now. And that was done as of September, notified them of their increase for the following year. So they'll all be under $1.41 per thousand. And then with the effort of trying to realign the agreements all under one consistent price.
What is that price?
afford one right
No, what will it be?
now. Well, I think that it was $1, it was current rate plus 10%.
What would that add up to, or just 10% of the
155?
155?
Yeah.
There was some talk that we were going to calculate the cost, the cost for the town of Plattsburgh to generate the water. Has that been done?
Yeah. Not in total, we're still collecting some of the data to,
When would you expect that to be
um,
available?
I mean, really, I'll have some good numbers at the end of the year because I kind of have
Okay.
year totals,
Yeah.
which are kind of the easiest to work with when we're talking about what it kind of costs us and stuff. So,
What's the average for the people who sell water in the county outside of the town of Plattsburgh?
great question.
All over the board.
I'd say it's more.
Champlain especially, right?
Yeah, I mean, most
It's
of them are
huge.
more.
Is anybody close?
I don't know. Yeah, it varies.
Okay.
$62.50 a quarter.
Anyone have any other questions for Scott while we've got him?
Yeah, on the report,
Yep,
monthly report, we get the base sewer line is complete.
yep. Base sewer lining was completed. That was the easement that kind of goes from the golf course to Connecticut lift station, which was one of our highest sources of infiltration. So that has been lined out.
There's other projects out there that
Oh, yeah,
possibly
well,
might be lining also.
Yeah, well, we broke that project into 5 phases to be able to do it. So that was one of 5 that was done. We'll do phase 2 next year.
So we've gotten the worst section.
Yeah, it was probably one of the highest means of infiltration because it went through kind of some wetlands areas and, you know, it was kind of out of sight. So it wasn't, it was difficult to maintain also, so. But it was also one of the easier and probably easier to find from a cost standpoint too, so we could go into that project knowing kind of what we were getting into and, because it didn't have a lot of laterals into it because most of that run is just kind of conveying, you know, the airport and some of that stuff at the, you know, the south end of the base all the way over to Connecticut. So.
It looks like we're making progress on our others. Getting somewhere on that.
Yep, yeah, we finalized the Route 3 and Sorrel design. Bid documents are being prepared. The drillers actually showed up today. Mobilized, so they're setting up, so we'll start drilling. And then we went out to bid for interior tank inspections. We could have done, we got, the best price really came forth by an individual that, Liquid Engineering, especially if we could, we got really good pricing if we could commit in the spring versus in the fall. They could only offer divers up in the fall versus ROV. There was no pressing driver for us to get that done in the fall. You know, we could have maybe digested some of the data and running in the spring, but, you know, I think the spring and the cost savings, you know, kind of forced us to push it off until the spring. They can get up here pretty quick, even before we'd be able to paint or do anything from a weather standpoint. So.
And the truck you removed from the fleet is not fixed, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple now that are kind of beyond, well, they're kind of at a point where it costs to repair. But it was the 1-ton dump truck that was taken out of service there because really the frame's failing.
Does Peter know?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, that's where we kind of, really the big point of failure was the frame failure. Because we kind of talked about whether trying to squeeze a few more, another year or 2 out of it, based on what the findings were from the mechanics, but that was kind of the seal right there, so the others we could chase, but.
And of course, there was nothing else you did during the month.
But okay, that's right. Still doing taps?
Yeah, well, we did a couple taps last week. We still got people on the list to do taps. And if you watch the weather, you know, where next week's going into well below comfortable temperatures. So we're still trying to, you know, work the best we can with those customers. And we started prioritizing, you know, one of them was to redo a line. They already have water, so we're kind of shuffling a little bit to say, hey, you know, we got some that don't have water at all. You at least have water, so let's kind of work around some of these issues. And it's really been result of the construction season. That several homes and a few businesses are still looking to establish taps, whether it's not always supportive of taps.
Anyone have anything else for Scott?
No, doing quite a bit there.
Thank you, Scott.
All righty.
Have you met?
Thanks,
Do
Ed.
you have anything for us?
No, no.
That's also good.
Okay. I also made a note on mine, and I added on mine today the agenda of draft resolutions. This one, I'll give you this now.
257.
But I put this on my section, a number 3 item. The agreement with Facet Realtor to sell the property on 9 South terminates 12/31. I've stayed in fairly regular communications with Mr. Facet. There have been some interest. He currently has a party that has some interest. I don't want to say any more than that. I'd like him to be able to continue. I don't see any value in changing right now, especially given one party that is relatively new and is interested. Putting it in the hands of anybody else at this point, I just don't think would do us any value. So I've indicated to him I'd like to get a letter from him requesting that we extend the agreement. You might anticipate that. I had kind of hoped he might have responded prior to this evening, so I might have his letter and a draft agreement to put with this. So I hammered this draft resolution out anyway, so we'll be in queue.
Are we talking about extending the agreement for the same length of time as the current agreement has been in effect?
I haven't gone that far with it even, Marty. I kind of was anxious to hear from him what he thought it might take, rather than just extend it for the same period of time.
It's on multiple listings, so if anybody can sell it,
It's out there.
it's out there.
He, as I said, he does have some conversations going, and we do need to be represented, so that may happen. So I just want to make you aware of that.
This is a particularly bad time to sell.
It probably is.
If we held on,
The-
would we be better off?
Well, we don't have an option to hold on because nobody's made an offer for us to refuse,
I understand, but.
which would be nice.
Particular times, obviously, when the market's not.
Oh,
good for-
Absolutely, Tom. This one party, you would know who they are, and they're making some other purchases that makes them quite interested. They may not want to make an offer until spring, I don't know. But I'd like him to continue his conversations with them on our behalf.
Okay.
We've had one discussion about flexibility with the price. At this point, my comments back to him on behalf of us was, let's find out what somebody's willing to pay before we lower a price. I don't think I need to right now, and I think the same conversation, the same train of thought you're having, Tom. Let's see what it does in the spring if we have to hold on that long. But,
None of that, people can always make an offer. If it's for sale for X, they can say
Sure.
X minus 50. I mean, that's pretty
I just
simple.
don't see the need to have a fire sale yet, maybe, so, because nobody's complained about the price. So
We need
that's-
to have a fire sale permanent.
If I get a letter from him, we get another agreement, I'll pull that forward for next Monday. All right, next, just trying to roll the agenda along, you have the minutes, please review them.
The other thing was that, members of the public, I think, William Brudvig was here.
I think you're right.
Were you here, Bill?
When? Last week?
Last week.
Yeah, so,
We got it, yeah.
I think he came in just a little after we had started. didn't
yes,
we?
he did.
So we'll add that in soon. Next is a resolution to pass tonight. As we said before, we're going to have a abstract each meeting through the 23rd, which is our last meeting. And this is, I assume you have it, Rick, Resolution 257, Abstract 12B.
You wanna give him a copy?
It's in here, probably in,
Should be up in the front, but the machine doesn't always grab everything perfect either.
resolved that the abstract about of the claims number 12B-13, 2650 to 2671 for $158,873.47 be received as reviewed by the audit committee and supervisors hereby authorized to take
Have
that.
a motion.
So move.
Mr. Wood, second.
Second.
Mr. Lemoyne. Any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Martin Manick,
Yes.
Paul Lemoyne.
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, resolution carries. Now, we have a series of drafts. I'm not going to dwell on them at all. One is a request from Mel. I don't think you have that one. I don't know.
Not the resolution, we have a letter.
Okay, we have a draft resolution as well that goes with the letter you probably got earlier. This is just a matter of moving the funds that's required by resolution from the Catawba Parkland account into our general fund so we can get this work done. I think you've seen the letter, I think we talked about that a little bit before. It made sense that we do it now while we've got the manpower. It's generic to this, I guess. I have, as of today, did the last letter concerning the positions that were eliminated, the string of bumps that took place, making quite certain we followed the contract pretty carefully, not doing anything until I received written notice from the employee whose position was eliminated that they wanted to exercise the right to bump, which went to the next person, doing nothing until they indicated their desire to bump in writing as well, etc. We're down to Alex and Kyle, who would be the final two individuals that actually would be laid off.
Isn't there one pending that, I mean, there are qualifications for the one in Highway that they have to have a CDL and all.
Yep.
So, I mean, isn't that layoff pending that the other applicant that's looking to bump has a CDL and?
It wouldn't take place because there'd be no one bumping December 31st if they don't have it. I'm moving forward with the assumption it will be done. Individual has a road test this week. We'll make some assumptions it's passed. I know there's also a backup plan. We've had some discussion, just for information purposes, about a time frame to do that. I've indicated that my position, our position is, if you have the skills and tools and license to do the job in January, you'll be able to start it on probation. If you don't, you won't. And I said, if you want to challenge that, do so. If you don't, pass your test. But let's not waste my time or yours talking about it right now. So we may have further discussions. I've indicated that to all the individuals, how this will also unwind. The same in the labor situation. Again, cutting the chase, Tony will be taking the position of labor in the Building and Grounds Department. She certainly has that right, and she meets minimal qualifications. Whether or not she'll be on probation, whether or not that works for her, works for the town, there'll be some time. I will be meeting, and working to meet with all the department heads that are impacted this week, as soon as tomorrow or Wednesday, so we can clarify little questions. There've been a lot of questions along the way, a lot of rumors. Make sure they understand how it's going to work as well. So there's change coming. Everybody understands. They understood. We've talked with department heads who are getting new employees. They certainly have the same expectation as they would with any new employee, to train them, show them how the jobs are to be done, and provide help for them to the degree that's reasonable. So it continues to go forward, but these last few weeks, needless to say, have been quite focused on this singular topic. But we're there. Everybody's doing the best they can to manage it. We also want to be reminded, and it's one of my reminders for department heads, these individuals are the first to be called back, Kyle and Alex, when a position opens up that they would be qualified for, that they would like to fill. Last out's first back. It's pretty simple. So that's that one. Building and grounds, safety monthly report
Is this, I'm just curious, but you gave us a resolution
for,
that was numbered. Is that something that we're going to be dealing with?
Melody's resolution.
you know what, she did, thank you, Tom. I didn't, she did want that one passed so they could get going on that. She did, I'm sorry, I missed that. So resolution 258, Katyville Recreation Park improvements.
Whereas the Recreation and Youth Director of Melanie Defiant has requested monies from the Katyville Recreation Park to improve and repair T-signs for the disc golf course. And whereas the monies would be appropriated to cover the cost to match the current signs at half the manufactured price that would be done by town employees. Now therefore be resolved that the town board, town of Plattsburgh, does hereby authorize the supervisor to transfer the following funds from the trust and agency account to the general fund, A 2702.0000 Parkland deposit, as so noted. And the resolved, a copy of this resolution be given to the budget officer, finance manager, and recreation director.
A motion. Mr. Wood, second.
Second.
Mr. Mannix. Any discussion?
Under the first resolve, it's not quite clear to me. You get a plus and get a minus, got a plus, then you get a total.
Funds are taken out of the Katyville Parkland account and then added to general fund improvements.
Right. So the total 300.
Total transacting is 300, right?
And it just seems kind of strange because the total zero. Adding those up, I'm wondering why that's there.
We're not adding money to the budget.
I understand.
If you feel it's misleading, you want it struck, it really has no major bearing on anything, we can do that.
Thank you.
Marty, that all right with you? We take
Sure.
total 300 out? Just a resolution to move funds to buy the materials to get the work done. I don't know if anyone else saw this morning in the press, the cheers and jeers section. There was a nice note to the Katyville church group that spent some time in the disc golf course. It was well done, I thought. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Mark Mannix,
Yes.
Alan Boyd,
Yes.
Marty Bassett.
Yes, carried as amended. Thank you, Tom, for not letting that one slip by me. I was ahead of myself. Then we have building maintenance. Again, we can discuss these if you want, just kind of rolling through what we have, providing the opportunity, as well as code enforcement.
Well,
Go back
on
to the
the
safety committee.
on the safety report, right?
Can I make a point though? I'd like to ask that we go to executive session to discuss the work history of a given employee.
You want to do it at this time, Marty?
And we don't have to do it right now, we could continue with your agenda and come back to this. Okay?
Unless it has bearing on one of the items you want to,
No, it comes out of the safety report.
okay. Okay, so I'm going to assume at this time then there's no discussion on the, further discussion on safety. We'll move into the executive after. We have a codes and zoning. My only comments on that, again, you see the activity level stays quite high. Our codes department was acknowledged more than once by the co-owners of the Buffalo Wild Wings. They had some real challenges out there, not with the franchise, not with the interior, but with the work was done on the exterior. As you know, we've been working quite a bit with NYSEG concerning natural gas issues, franchise issues. Marty's been all over that. That was another situation where they were looking to extend a gas service from a already out of franchise area further our franchise area, which created some problems. But they were good problems for us because the Public Service Commission gets it. And I don't think I shared with you, Marty, you had a couple things going on that day. We met with NYSEG. They're believing the Public Service Commission's report before the end of the year that we heard about won't happen before the end of the year, maybe shortly after. They've gone back to NYSEG asking for some more data concerning options to franchise agreement, and they're still working to provide that. So that may be delayed a little more, but lots of activity going on there. Highway Department, we had a little concern on Sorrel Ave. I gotta say, Jim and his crew, they're among the best to, if it's humanly possible, the call comes and the truck goes out, and they're on it. And they mitigated that problem within 48 hours, as well as what you see he's reporting. Historians, as always, a very needy report.
Yeah, I think they could add one community that they're listed here, they could add Treadwell's Mills to that as far as communities.
In which,
Well, in the second line here, that embraces many local hamlets or less defined communities, and then they list the number, and that one's left out. But it was a unique community.
do you want to pass that on to him, or do you want me to?
I'll come.
I'm sure you'd appreciate it. Parks and Rec, again, I'm just affording some opportunities here if I don't have any special notes. A Planning Department's report. Projects continue to go forward. You'll notice item number 2, Sweet Frog is now a defined project going in the same area with Buffalo Wild Wings. Development Corporation's building site continues. Town clerks, Ricky's here if anybody has any questions. Wireless water report, we've spent some time there. You've got a couple of refund projects that we'll deal with. It's pretty standard. And then we have some appointments. There's a couple of questions came up earlier. I'll pursue that and get back. And then the Realtor 1. Those are the drafts as we see them. Again, stuff may come up, and as we're getting to this point, end of the year, we want to close on as many issues as we can. We will be back, but Marty, you brought up a request for a motion to go into executive session to discuss, was it the work history of a
The
particular
work
individual?
history of a particular employee.
I'll take Marty as the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Tom, any discussion? All in favor indicates so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We will break for this executive session at 7:51, and we will return. Okay, I need a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Mr. Manick, second.
Second.
Mr. Lemoyne, any discussion? Roll call, all in favor indicate so by saying aye.
Aye. There. He's in the
Opposed? Anyone opposed? Okay, we'll be out at 8:15. Anyone have any other business for the evening? If not, I'm going to adjourn this work session at 8:15.